On behalf of the Australia-Indonesia Business Council, I would like to welcome all of you for joining us today. Many of you have travelled long distances to be here, not just from Indonesia, but also from other parts of Australia. However, I would particularly like to welcome and acknowledge our distinguished guests. The Honourable Dr. Craig Emerson, MP, Minister for Trade, Bapa Mahendra Siregar, Vice Minister of Trade, Bapa Gita Wiryawan, Chairman of BKPM, Indonesia's Investment Coordination Agency, His Royal Highness Sri Sultan Hamengkubuwono X, Sultan and Governor of Yogyakarta, Ambassador Greg Moriarty, Ambassador Primo Alui Julianto, Consul General Gary R.M. Yusuf, and Bapa S.D. Darmono, President of the Indonesia-Australia Business Council. I'd also like to give a special welcome to Bapa Mutaryanto A.O. Pa MP is the founder of AIBC, and he was awarded an Order of Australia earlier this year in recognition of over 30 years of service to Indonesia-Australia business relations. Please extend to Pa MP our congratulations. I'd also like to thank our bilingual MC today, Sam Harjono, and I'd also like to extend our appreciation to our conference committee led by Lydia Santoso, AIBC's Vice Chair in New South Wales. The other members of Lydia's team are Kiralee Hughes, AIBC's Executive Officer, Vic Harlem, IABC's Executive Director, Richard Rogers from DFAT, and Marviana Siregar from the Indonesian Consulate. I'd also like to acknowledge the input from Ross Taylor, the AIBC's National Vice President, Blaine Gordon, our immediate past President, David Edwards, our Treasurer, and Eric De Haas, our Company Secretary. And also Ian Satchwell, until recently the chair of our IA-CEPA advisory group, all of whom have made major contributions to today's conference. I'd also like to acknowledge the presence today of a number of AIBC and IABC directors. We'll be hearing today from an extensive panel of speakers, discussants and session chairs. I think all of us would acknowledge what an impressive panel of speakers we have, and we're very grateful that they've given up their time and to share their wisdom with us. There would not be a conference today without sponsors, so I'd like to acknowledge the support of the Commonwealth Bank of Australia, the Export Finance and Insurance Corporation, TEAS, Solaris, BKPM, ITPC and Austrade. In particular, I'd like to acknowledge Leith Doody from Austrade and give my special thanks to Austrade for funding the AIBC Conference online project. I would also like to thank our very enthusiastic student volunteers from PPIA New South Wales, the Indonesian Students Association. The students in the red shirts are our future business leaders. Under the leadership of Albertus Whitney, they've very generously donated their time to assist us today. Finally, I'd like to acknowledge the efforts of both the Australian and Indonesian governments, especially both ambassadors and their staff, for assisting in the preparations for today's conference, and also to our friends and colleagues at IABC. So you can see from that very long list of acknowledgements, that a significant amount of planning and preparation has gone into making this conference possible. So I felt that it was very important to publicly acknowledge the support that we've been given. The title of today's conference is Deepening Our Economic Partnership, and that is really the purpose for today. Not only are we here to learn about why Australia and Indonesia survived the GFC and are amongst the world's leading growth economies and investment destinations, not only are we here to network, but most importantly, we are here to come up with some ideas on how we can encourage more cooperation and partnerships between Australian and Indonesian companies. Despite the performance of both of our economies, the business relationship is still underweight. as evidenced by the trade and investment statistics. And yet we are neighbours with strong economic complementarities. As my friend Ian Buchanan says, and I quote, "We are increasingly integrated into an interconnected, interdependent and complex 21st century world," end quote. In other words, as neighbours, we can either work together as partners and develop opportunities in an increasingly competitive global economy, or we can ignore the potential and let opportunity pass us by. For the record, I am an optimist, and I passionately believe that we can deepen the business partnership. I have seen firsthand many great examples of Australian and Indonesian companies operating across borders and working together, mutually benefiting from the experience. The opportunities are enormous for Australia to position itself to take advantage of the strong future growth outlook for Indonesia, our nearest neighbour and one of the world's fastest growing economies. Indonesia's population of 240 million people and growing economy need the goods and services produced by Australia. And Indonesia also has an urgent need to develop infrastructure in telecommunications, transport, power, ports, health and education, and the development of its services sector. And Australia needs what Indonesia produces. For Indonesian business, there are opportunities to export to Australia manufactured goods, skilled labour services, oil and gas processing plants, and food such as noodles and specialised fruit. Indonesian investors are active in Australia with growing interests in commercial property, mining and agriculture. However, despite these opportunities, the current level of trade and investment lags its true potential. In this audience today, we have some of the best minds in business and government from both countries. My challenge to each and every one of you is to put forward at least one idea of how we can grow the business relationship. One suggestion, no matter how small or out of left field. The conference has been designed so that we have sessions that will involve as many people as possible. We'll start today hearing from Dr. Emerson and Pa Mahendra, and from Pagita at lunch. And later on today, we will also hear from the two ambassadors. But this morning, we will have a high-level discussion with senior business people that will address the issue of how Indonesia and Australia fit in the global economy. In what areas are there complementarity? And how can we improve business-to-business relations? The AIBC warmly welcomed the announcement by the Australian Prime Minister Gillard and the Indonesian President Yudhoyono about the commencement of negotiations for an Indonesia-Australia Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, IA-CEPA. Because we believe that the IA-CEPA provides the framework for bringing our two business communities closer together. It is as much about the process as it is about the outcome. The scope of the IA-CEPA is much broader and more strategic than a traditional free trade agreement. It will be a new type of agreement that seeks to bring the two economies closer together, covering investment and industry cooperation, dealing with behind-the-border issues that frustrate business, and delivering significant capability transfer initiatives. There will be many opportunities for Australian and Indonesian companies to participate in the framing of this agreement, which is expected to result in significant increase in trade, investment and capability transfer between our two economies. We are privileged to have both lead negotiators, Harry Sutanto and Michael McGliston, with us today. And it demonstrates the importance of business involvement if the IA-CEPA is to happen. After lunch, there will be breakout sessions that will deal with sectoral issues. This is your chance to discuss the opportunities and raise some of the real issues that business people face every day. Your contributions will go directly into the IA-CEPA process. So I encourage each of you to come up with both the barriers and opportunities for cross-border business. But I also encourage you to think more broadly about how we can do business together, not only in the region, but globally, not just bilaterally. In our penultimate session, we will resume for a panel discussion about the perceptions that the Australian and Indonesian business communities have of one another. We will hear about the important research from the Lowy Institute, but also today I would like to share with you the key findings of the 2011 Indonesia Perception Survey conducted for the third year by our long-standing partners AFG Venture Group. The full report will be posted on our website aibc.com.au later today. The survey of Australian business is designed to measure the attractiveness of Indonesia as a place to do business, and the results are mixed. The majority of respondents believe that Indonesia is a more attractive business destination compared to last year, especially in relation to other parts of Asia. However, there remain key areas of the business environment that require improvement: lack of infrastructure, lack of legal system reform, and this year an increasing concern about restrictive labour laws. But I am pleased to report that the survey also found overwhelming support for the IA-CEPA. If you would like a hard copy of the report, or you have any questions about the survey results, then Glenn Robinson from AFG Venture Group is with us today. Not only am I able to release those survey results, but I'm also pleased to launch today the latest edition of the Doing Business in Indonesia Guide, prepared by another long-standing partner, RSM Bird Cameron, and their Indonesian affiliate, RSM AAJ Associates. All conference participants will receive a complimentary copy of the guide, and it will also be available for downloading from our website. And I extend my sincere appreciation to Nick Graham and Eric de Haas for the work that they've put into the guide. It is a simple, easy-to-read document full of practical information and tips about doing business in Indonesia. For anyone considering entering the Indonesian market, then I encourage you to read this guide, as it contains some invaluable information on the business environment and also hints for business visitors. But of course, the most valuable way of learning about how to do business in Indonesia is to spend some time talking to experienced practitioners. And you'll get this opportunity not only during today's conference, but also at a reception this evening with His Royal Highness Sri Sultan Hamengkubuwono X, Sultan and Governor of Yogyakarta, as our keynote speaker. It is a real honour for us that His Royal Highness is able to be with us today, and we look forward to hearing from him about Yogyakarta as an attractive business destination. The program for today is very full. We have over 210 participants, an extremely high calibre of speakers and panellists, and a challenging topic. I encourage all of you to get involved in each of the sessions, because it is only through the active and enthusiastic involvement of the business community that we can truly deepen the economic partnership. Thank you.